Welcome to our final episode of Series 65, everyone. In today's episode, we wrap up our spooky micro RPG series with 2 more games. Our spookiest yet, which I originally wrote in these notes, but I don't think they're our spookiest yet. They are very serious, though.
They are very serious, absolutely. After the episode, join us back here for our usual thoughts on this recording, as well as our normal announcements and shout-outs about our Patreon, some info about AcadeCon Events, and an upcoming charity event by one of our friends.
Until then, enjoy the show, everyone.
Welcome to Character Creation Cast, a show where we discuss and create characters, the best part of role-playing games, with guests using their favorite systems. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan, and in this episode, my co-host Amelia and I talk to ourselves and each other about even more micro games that would be a great fit for Spooky Month.
Last week, we got a little bit spookier, and today we're going to turn it up even more in our final episode of this series. We are talking about Lycantree by Beau Ja Sheldon and A Green Hour, The Dying Land by Jeeyon Shim, both from the Ultimate Micro RPG book.
So let's go ahead and get into this. And we're going to start by discussing what these games are all about.
What's in a game?
A quick content warning for this game based on what's in the book. Obviously, we haven't recorded it yet, so I don't know what we'll come up with. But for this game, it lists monsters and family drama.
All right. So Lycantree, the story of your werewolf family's history. So interesting choice. We're not going to be able to play a full game because the playtime for this is 3 to 4 hours. But the fun thing is this is a solo RPG. We haven't really covered too many solo RPGs on the podcast. But we thought we're doing a whole bunch of different spooky micro games. Why not throw in a solo one as well?
Yeah. And we figured it would be fun to kind of just collaborate on one character situation, I guess. It's not one character, but one character situation. Because, you can tell a story with more than one person. If you
exactly.
Want. Collaborate.
Yeah, so this one needs a pen and paper, a D6, a D10, and some sort of safety tool if you need it, in case you go somewhere unexpected with yourself. It's always good to have that on hand. The goal is to explore the family history of your Lycantree and find your own path. Genre is horror, tone is serious, and it looks like it could be an interesting look at a werewolf growing up in a werewolf family, right?
Yeah. I mean, it explores your family history, and so, how does that affect you and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to read the full description here that it starts with. In Lycantree, you play the youngest member of your werewolf pack who's exploring the history of your Lycantree, the events that created your family. Your pack is a biological family that collectively raises young, and you are very long-lived. You can trace over lifetimes the individual stories and the pack's legacy by interviewing family and reading their journals. By doing this, you will find your own path through the visions of the Lycantree.
Yeah, so it's really interesting because it's going through your ancestry, and a lot of people could have lived for centuries in your werewolf family. So you're supposed to play through interviewing them effectively and whatnot, which is really interesting.
So the setup.
Yeah.
Let's make some people.
You draw your pack Lycantree on a sheet of paper and name up to 5 pack members, including yourself, as well as your maternal parent and at least 1 adult sibling, aunt, or uncle. So the way I read this is you name up to 5 pack members, including yourself and the maternal parent and at least 1 adult.
So you'd be
sibling,
making
aunt, or uncle.
5
Right.
total.
That
right?
includes yourself and and a maternal parent and then the other one. So that's 3 named, and then you can do another 2.
Yes.
That's how I read it. You originally read it as 5, including yourself, and then another 3.
Yeah, or another 2 on top of that. Yeah, so like I think it can read either way. So you're either doing at least 3, and at most 7 is how I read that.
Okay. Yeah, I read up to 5.
Yeah.
Total.
Honestly, let's just do 5 total because 7 sounds too much.
It's a lot. A lot of things to talk about.
Certainly
and roll for.
a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So who do we want to have? We have ourselves.
Yep. So we for sure have a maternal parent.
Right.
And what do we want? An adult sibling, an aunt, or an uncle for the third one? I was thinking either sibling or aunt for some reason.
Yeah, let's go with aunt.
Okay.
And then what else do we want? I mean, because we could have a sibling as well.
Yeah.
We have to name 2 more.
Mm-hmm. I think having a sibling would be nice as well.
Okay.
I mean, I think a grandparent would kind of even things out a bit.
Okay. Mom's
be able
mom?
to go back even further.
Is that our mom's mom? Maternal grandparent?
Yeah, we could do that.
Okay. Feels like if we do a paternal one, we also have to name a dad, and
right.
That's another
That's
person,
just so much work.
Well, we also can't have, we said 5, so.
Yeah. Is the dad, would the dad have to be a werewolf? Guess that's, it depends on the werewolf lore. And this just assumes you're a family of werewolves.
Well, yeah, but if you name a paternal grandparent there and your dad's not a werewolf, then your grandpa is probably not on your Lycantree.
That's true.
That's not really how that would work.
That's
and
true.
Also, that's too many people then.
That's too many people.
Okay, so we have a maternal grandmother, our mom, us, a sibling, and an aunt.
Yes.
Okay. Now we have to give them all names and pronouns.
I know. Well, we're going to be the youngest one.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have an older sibling. Interesting. Okay.
We just got to name them.
Yeah.
It's
just
okay.
got to name them. Okay. So what's a good last name for this family?
Do we need last name?
I don't think we need a last name. I guess we could go without a last name.
I was just imagining first names.
Sure. I mean, if a last name comes to us, we can go with that to tie them all together.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're talking somebody probably born in the 1800s, late 1800s, maybe, as our mother.
Okay.
It's a good 1800s name.
Let me look.
Oh.
Popular names of the 1880s. They are what you think they would be. Mary, Anna, Emma, Elizabeth, Margaret, Alice, Annie, Florence, Bessie, Grace, Ethel.
I like Margaret.
Okay. She, her?
Yeah.
Okay.
What about grandma?
Okay, well, mom's from the 1800s, then our maternal grandmother's from, 1600s?
Yeah, I think 1600s. At the latest, early 1700s.
I mean, so, the ones that would be used in the Americas are all just going to be, Mary, Peter, John, because they were mostly Christians heading over here.
Well, I mean, I think grandma could have come over from Europe, right?
Yeah.
Or wherever.
Yeah, I'm just saying that the people that were settled here, they're all going to have that kind of name. So is that...
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I guess, honestly, in England, too, it was Margaret, Catherine. Right. Because we weren't at the Quakers yet, who had the best names.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, they had cool names like Cadwaller and Trueblood and Sharpless and,
Oh.
They just had the best names.
Wild.
Yeah, they were great. Experience Cuppage.
What?
Feta Place Church.
What?
Hallelujah Fisher. Humble Thatcher.
Wow.
Jane Quit. Job Bland. That's probably Job. Job Bland. Loveday Kilo. Marvelous Scanfield. They have such good names.
That's amazing.
Reuben Rawbone. Revolution 6 Smith. Sherlock Thorpe.
I'm going through a given names of 1450 to 1650 list of bunch of names.
A lot of Quaker names were like based on virtues. At least for women.
Right.
There's a lot of patience, silence, temperance.
Oh.
Comfort cripes. This is a list that like a researcher came across like while working on her research.
Yeah.
So these are like real people. I'm not just making these up.
Amazing.
Yeah, there's a couple patients on here. Thankful. Theophilia. Virgin Kent. Wonderful Warwick. These are good.
Let's go with Patience then.
Okay.
That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So Patience had Margaret, our mother, as well as another daughter, at least.
Yes.
Let's see. What is our aunt's name then?
Well, it's going to be another kind of 1800s name. I mean, it feels like Elizabeth or something like that.
Yeah, I think Elizabeth would work.
Our sibling?
Let's see. Do you want us to have a brother or a sister?
I was kind of thinking sister. I was kind of thinking all girls.
Yeah, I was thinking the same.
Okay.
So let's see. What is our sister's name?
It's going to be something like 1900s kind of name.
Yeah, like...
well, no, our mom was late 1800s, we said.
Yeah.
So maybe like...
Mid-1900s,
like,
right?
1930s, maybe?
Yeah, maybe. Maybe even like post-war, 40, like
baby
late
boomer?
40s. Yeah. Or could even be like 60s.
Yeah, but I want us to be a little older than just like 18, right?
Well, right.
It's an older sibling. But I guess, so the question is like, how far apart do you have kids when you live for centuries?
Well, right, exactly.
You know? So like, I'm like, my kids are like 2 years apart. You know, my sibling and I are 13 years apart, I guess.
Right. Yeah, because that age gap is like a big deal when you're talking about like, oh, I just had a baby and like this baby is your sibling now. And by the way, do you
age at the same rate? So like at 50, are you like 10?
It feels like you get to age 18. Like normally how like this usually works is normal human until you reach around 18 or so. And then it slows way down. Like elves, I guess, in most things.
Okay, so are we thinking like a 60s sibling and then we're in like the 80s? Like we're just like in our 30s now?
Yeah.
30s, 40s?
I like a millennial werewolf.
Okay. So let me look at 60s then instead. See where that gets us. Lisa, Mary, Susan, Karen, Kimberly, Patricia, Linda, Donna. I kind of like
Do we
Donna.
like our older sister?
Well, we're not there yet. We're still just naming.
I know. Just wondering if we wanted to name her Karen.
Oh, that's a good point.
Because then we'd have internet meme leverage over her.
Yeah, let's name her Karen.
All right. Just in case she turns out to be a not so good older sister.
All right. Now we have to name ourselves.
Let's
see, what are the popular names in the 80s?
We're looking at late 80s, right?
Yeah.
This is like close to your generation.
Jessica, Jennifer, Amanda, Ashley, Sarah, Stephanie, Melissa, Nicole, Elizabeth, Heather, Tiffany. These are all people that I knew.
I know, right? Like, why are all these names sounding extremely familiar?
This is everybody I went to school with. Brittany, Rebecca, Laura.
Yeah.
Danielle, Emily, Samantha.
Want to just like randomly point your finger at one of them and
Right. How about Rachel?
Rachel. Perfect.
Okay. That only took way too long.
Yes. And this is not the Rachel from Friends.
No.
Because we already did that bit.
Yeah. And I've still not seen Friends.
Nope.
Okay.
Okay. So we have a partial tree. It also says leave some open spaces for family members who aren't a part of the pack or who aren't alive today. So it looks like we could have had like, what if all the men in our family just weren't werewolves, right?
Yeah. And
Which
I
is
think
very possible.
These are things that'll come up as you like answer the questions and, you know, learn about your family. Because you just start with this family tree. All right. We have to answer 4 questions about each pack member and then roll a D10 on the chart 3 times for each of them. Okay.
Yes.
Record the results and detail in your own words the narrative of what happened in each occasion.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I'm just trying to decide like where does the kind of creation part end and like
that pretty much was the creation. I mean, it feels like you're creating the backstory of all of these characters through gameplay.
How does pack member support the pack and family? How has this pack member shown their unique personality? How does this pack member build trust with the other wolves? What is one time they failed to meet a promise in spite of that? And who is this pack member closest to, and how do they show care?
Interesting.
Yeah. I'm thinking, do we want to just roll these, like the solo random rolls? I don't know that we have time to answer all of the questions about all of these people.
That's what, 5 times 4? That's 20 questions.
Yeah, and they aren't easy questions.
No.
We are supposed to answer the questions about ourselves, though.
Yeah.
So do we want to do that about ourselves?
Yeah, let's answer it about ourselves at the very least.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So question 1.
Yes.
How does this pack member support the pack and family?
Yeah. So millennial Rachel, 40 years younger, give or take, than her next eldest sister in the pack. And gosh, probably 100 years younger than her mother.
I think Rachel supports the pack by kind of keeping them in touch with the current world. I mean, because you're talking about a grandmother that was like from the 1700s. And so, you know, like you're not a werewolf 100% of the time. So you do have to be part of society and be human sometimes, you know? So I think Rachel's job is to kind of help educate them and help them blend in continually and, you know, keep them safe that way.
Because we're in an era now where technology is outpacing the pack.
Right.
So that makes sense that us being born into technology, born at the beginning of that boom, are the ones that are pushing into that space and teaching the pack about the latest tech and the latest going-ons in the world.
Yeah.
Grandma still doesn't understand memes.
Right.
But that's okay.
How has this pack member shown their unique personality?
Are we more outgoing than the other pack members?
Yeah, I think because we are younger and we've kind of like grown up with the internet. Keep saying we, the royal we. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because Rachel is younger and has grown up with the internet. Rachel has also grown up with AO3.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, you know,
her perspective on the acceptance of werewolves is dramatically skewed, to say the least.
I don't even know that it's skewed so much as like she's definitely less afraid
Yes.
of that part. Like, I think the rest of her family is very isolated, and, you know, it's like, because we're not accepted by society, and we, like, no one can know. And Rachel is like, I'm not going to tell people, but if they find out,
it might lead to something.
You know, they might be into that. Yeah.
More often than not, according to the internet.
Yeah. So I think that's how it shines through, is that she's just more like, I don't want to say careless, but like, I don't know, what's the word?
Carefree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's more carefree about her werewolf identity.
Right, exactly. Like, she doesn't flaunt it, but it's nothing that she, you know, keeps hidden away.
Right. Yeah, she's not as, like, paranoid about somebody finding out.
Right.
She's like, people probably think it's cool, and maybe I could get famous for it.
Yeah, exactly.
TikTok will love me. All right. Number 3. How does this pack member build trust with other wolves? And what is one time they failed to meet a promise in spite of that? How do you build trust with the other people?
I wonder if it kind of goes back to that whole, like, okay, you know, I don't mind if this secret gets out, but my family sure does.
Yeah.
So I build trust by ensuring that the secret does remain secret, at least for their sakes.
Yeah.
Like, we're a little careful about it. Rachel's a little careful about it, but like, especially when it comes to her family.
She's extremely protective of them.
Right. And one time they failed to meet a promise in spite of that.
Yeah.
Is Rachel like a relatively recent local cryptid sighting?
Oh, interesting.
Like caught on camera sort of deal?
Yeah, I mean, we are definitely much more in the age of cell phones and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that makes sense.
I'm very curious. Like, werewolf lore has such like a diverse set of like how the werewolves look. Like, do you go full wolf when you transform? Do you like, you know, part human, part wolf? Are you more monstrosity, or do you have more control over your humanity side? Yeah,
it's really a broad definition.
Right, exactly. So if it's like closer to wolf, I can see that just being like, oh, big wolf, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But like, to make it more interesting to and more difficult to hide, like, it feels like it has to be a little bit more humanoid.
Yeah, a little bit more like monstrous.
Yeah, a little bit more monstrous, like can walk upright easily, but runs on all fours sort of deal.
Yeah.
Right?
I like that. I like that.
Because that's just creepy enough. I do also like the thought of these werewolves not being out of control.
Yeah,
right?
I like maintaining some I don't know what the word is. Autonomy.
Yeah. Yeah, because like a lot of werewolf lore is about, oh, I become this werewolf and I lose control of all my autonomy, and then I just go on a bloodthirst rampage, right?
Yeah.
And I wonder if that might be what it was like for, you know, Grandma in the past.
Yeah.
And like over time, maybe she learned to control it more, and maybe that's been passed down through the ages.
They've learned some, like, they've got like werewolf therapists now.
Yeah.
To like really help you harness that, you know.
Right. Well, it's an interesting thing, because like when I said, you know, late 1800s for Mom, and then like we went back 200 full years to get to Grandma, that's a huge gap, 1600s to 1800s. Right.
That's a lot of time to learn.
Yeah, I wonder if like Grandma took like 100 years to learn how to be like fully in control of her werewolf form.
Right.
Before she felt safe around people, right?
Well, yeah, and I think like concerns about passing that on as a thing that you can't control too. And then eventually she learns that like she does have some control of it. And then like, okay, if I do pass it on, I can teach this to my child too.
Yep.
Yeah.
That sounds really cool.
All right. And then who is the pack member closest to and how do they show care?
I almost want to say either our aunt or our grandma.
We haven't said anything about our aunt. I forgot about our aunt.
Yeah. Let's go with our aunt.
Okay.
Our aunt was born when? She would have been late 1800s too, right? Give or take.
Yeah, I think maybe we said early 1900s.
Yeah, maybe early 1900s. That would make sense. I think a younger sister to our mom would be interesting. Yeah. Like 1900s.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I think our aunt might be the one that Rachel is closest to.
Okay, so our Aunt Elizabeth.
Yeah.
I think maybe we're closest to her because our Aunt Elizabeth has kind of that similar sort of carefree nature. I think not as much as Rachel, but I think our mom is like super protective and cautious and, you know, slightly paranoid. And our Aunt Elizabeth is a little bit less so.
It's really like the younger sibling syndrome, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think both our older sibling and our mom are that super protective, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then our aunt and us being the younger kids of our generations, quote unquote, we have that more carefree attitude, right?
Yeah.
So I think we kind of back each other up often.
Yeah.
Like, especially in matters of like, you know, family squabbles or whatnot, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think she shows like they show care sort of by there's gonna be so much like dead silence in this episode.
That's fine.
I think by like offering more like practical advice on things, whereas our mom is very like, by the book, this is how it's done. This is, you know, and our aunt is much more like, okay, I know that they say to do it that way, but that doesn't really work. And, you know, or like, I don't know why they do it that way, but this method also works. And, you know, like that kind of stuff. Just being a little more like flexible with the ways of doing things.
Yeah. Is their aunt kind of like the mediator?
Yeah. Also like the person whose house you can go to after you've had a fight with mom.
Oh, yeah. Because we're millennials. We can't afford to live away from home.
No.
That's the true horror of this game.
It is.
Capitalism.
Horror of every game. Okay. I think that gives us an idea of who Rachel is, though. I really like that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool how that works out. I'm wondering, we need to answer the solo question. We've got an okay perspective of some of the other family members. I don't know if we know anything about Karen currently, aside from older sister, and she's probably overprotective.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, who do we want to roll the solo chart for?
Honestly, I'm not sure that we wanted to, because they're very
abstract.
Right. And I feel like if we're not going to do the whole journaling thing, then.
Yeah. So the solo part is basically you roll the three things and you get three phrases like heard the moon howl back, hunted out in the fields of enemies, escaped the lost labyrinth,
felt the dreams of lost ancestors.
Yeah. Sacrifice years to the moon's call. Like there's a lot of evocative phrases here. Mm-hmm. And you're supposed to take each of these phrases as kind of like, almost like an occasion. Like a
prompt.
Yeah, it's a prompt for each of them. And you're supposed to write like a journal entry for each of these prompts for each of your family members, not for yourself, right?
Right.
That is probably what takes up a crux of that 3 to 4 hour playtime.
Mm-hmm. Well, then you're going to do stuff again for like your pack as a whole.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're going to answer more questions and then do some rolls and get some phrases again. Became resistant to Silver's Bane, saw the first wolf appear at the greatest need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of prompts in this game. So what we're going to do is we're going to skip over the prompts for the sake of this episode because, Lordy, we don't have the time for that.
No.
But I would like to move on and see kind of what this next step does entail. Once you answer these questions and completed the solos, you answer these questions 5 through 8 and roll another. This one's a D6 3 times against the pack chart. And that's the stuff that Amelia was just talking about. And then you do more journaling there. And let's see. It looks like this is, you just do this once, 5 through 8 once. You don't do it for every.
Yeah, it's for your whole pack.
Right.
That's why we did the solo ones are about each member of our family that we put on our tree. And then the pack ones are about your pack as a whole.
Okay. Do we want to go ahead and answer the pack questions then?
I suppose we could.
What is the pack best known for in the occult world? It's interesting because this implies either A, only werewolves are part of the occult, or there's also vampires, magic users, and all this other stuff that's like on the underneaths of society, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not really particular. I feel like the occult world can be whatever you want it to be.
Exactly.
It's just like, what is your particular pack best at in that sort of supernatural?
Are we best known for that control?
Yes, I really like that.
Like, out of all the werewolf packs, we're the ones that figured it out. Patent pending.
Right. Yeah, we've really like perfected it.
Yeah.
How has the pack influenced the mundane world?
That's an interesting question.
I feel like we've sort of established that they are trying to kind of move along with society and kind of be a part of it. And I like, while our family is, like some of them are pretty paranoid about people finding out, I think our family overall, or like our pack overall, is one of the most integrated with regular society. So I think, honestly, a lot of it is just in the fact that we're part of the mundane world at all, that we haven't hidden away and,
Because we don't have to fear like hurting people close to us or anything like that.
Right. That's true too. Yeah. We feel comfortable being able to do that.
Yeah.
We still hide the fact that we're werewolves, but we're not afraid of being close to villages and, things like that.
Exactly. I think we use that to basically, do we like keep an ear open to the like society's views of the occult and like gently nudge them in a positive direction?
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely thinking about that being part of like that question number 3, where we said that we kind of make sure that our families aren't discovered and, like we protect them and everything.
Yeah.
I definitely could see us like as a pack having, like people as members of the government, or if you have a grandmother that is from the 1600s and she invested in some Apple stock at some point, or, the real, you know what I mean? Like, I think we've got a lot of time to accrue some interest. We have old money. And so I think
old money,
we can also like influence politics that way. And
I like not being politicians, but influencing politics behind the scenes.
Yeah, that's fair. You'd probably get discovered as a politician.
Yeah. Eventually you would have to retire, right? And just be like, I'm getting too old for this, even though I looked 40.
Right. Yeah, that would start to raise some questions. So I think we're integrated into the modern world, and we are sort of working behind the scenes to really advance understanding and kind of an agenda of openness.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't really be like werewolf rights. But I think generally sort of advancing rights in general. And it's like the the more accepting we are of people with mental health problems and people with disabilities and, queer people, it's like that all paves the way for us to eventually, I don't want to say human rights because that's a little different.
I do like our pack being the social avengers of the werewolf community.
Yeah. So we're kind of working behind the scenes to advance werewolf rights.
I like that.
Okay. 7. What is one rule the pack enforces and one rule the pack will always break for good reason?
That's so good.
Okay, so what's one rule we enforce? I think despite all of our work pushing for an agenda, we do not let anyone know. That's like a hard and fast rule for the pack.
Yeah.
You don't tell people.
Don't tell people. Well, okay. I wonder if that should be the second one that we break. We have that rule, but we break it with good reason. Because I have a feeling that our mom and our grandma have gotten together with regular humans on more than one occasion. And they probably would have known at that point or at some point.
Oh, you mean like spouses or partners or whatever?
Yeah.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
So I wonder, like...
Maybe it's just that you don't let them ever see you in that form.
Yeah, that could be. I was also thinking like one unbreakable rule is, we don't go after people. We don't.
Oh, yeah.
We don't attack people. We don't use our werewolf forms for that.
Yeah, we don't kill people.
Yep.
And we will tell them we're werewolves within reason.
Yeah. And what does the pack collectively wish to do with their power?
I mean, I feel like we've mostly answered that.
I think we want to exist openly.
Yeah, that's the
like
ultimate
eventually goal. Down the line, one of our future generations can openly exist as werewolves in society and be accepted because we're not hurting anybody.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. All right. And then once you've responded to these questions, you roll for yourself on the future chart.
Mm-hmm.
Which I believe is this last chart here, right?
Yeah.
So that's pretty much it. So like the future chart here, the moon hull back, operate openly in mundanity, broker a peace amongst wolves. There's a lot of interesting prompts on there too.
I mean,
but
obviously,
again,
I think operate openly in mundanity is really what the goal is.
Exactly.
You're supposed to roll, but I feel like that's the sort of story we've established here.
Yeah, exactly. And the game says you roll 3 times for yourselves and interpret what it all means. And like we kind of went nice with this one, but like I think this one could like lend to some really intense storytelling.
Well, and the other thing is that first set of questions we're supposed to answer for everyone, not just ourselves. So there's definitely room for a lot of more complicated stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I know Grandma's got some skeletons in her closet for sure.
Definitely.
and that was Lycantree.
Yeah. It's technically a solo journaling game. So I think we've not really covered solo games, but I really enjoyed this, and it's kind of something I would like to try maybe.
Yeah, so maybe we can collaborate sometime, or if we want to do it ourselves, it would be a lot of fun.
Hey, November is NaNoWriMo, so
there you go. You can almost get 50,000 words just on this alone.
We could.
There is enough prompts.
There is.
All right.
Okay, so we did Lycantree, and now we're going to move on to our second game.
Mm-hmm.
A Green Hour, The Dying Land by Jeeyon Shim.
What's in a game?
Yeah, so this is a 2-player game. A small amount of players, like our last game, which was only 1.
Yeah.
But this one is much faster.
Thank you for like the analysis. A small number, kind of like last time, which was 1.
Yes. Okay, yeah. So A Green Hour, The Dying Land is a 2-player game. Takes about an hour or 2 to play. And we do have some content warnings. You want to list those off, Amelia?
Sure. The content warnings that the games give, which again, same as last time, we have not covered it yet, so we can't We don't know that we'll get into all of this or not, but the content warnings directly from the game are intimacy, sexual content, and cultural pressure.
Mm-hmm. So a bit different. You'll see kind of why we picked this one in a little bit. The game requires you to have paper, pens, and 2d6 per player. The goal of the game is to simultaneously explore the intimacy of humanity and the vastness of being a god. It's a fantasy genre game, serious tone, GM-less format, and it looks really interesting.
Do you want to read that intro paragraph?
Yeah. So the intro here says, in a green hour, you play as the scions of two ancient lineages. The land is dying. According to the temple, your arranged marriage will determine the fate of the land and the survival of the old gods by uniting the two of you into a new god. You stand before each other in the sacred bower devoted to your union. Before dawn, you will create the mantles of your new existence. This is the last time you will converse as human beings with human worries and human hearts. Everyone awaits your return.
So just, everyday chill stuff.
Yeah.
Like normally how life is, right?
This is how romance
we've all
works,
been
right?
there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This feels very high school romance level sort
right.
of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, except, where the fate of the world depends on you and you're not going to be human anymore and,
Exactly.
that kind of stuff. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Let's make some people.
So this says that you should read through the entire text together before you begin to play. Assume that as people brought up in the traditions of the temple, both your characters consented wholeheartedly to the arrangement of your marriage and its duties. If that is a problem, this is probably not the game for you. So, Ryan, are we good with that?
I am good with that.
Okay, I am good with that too. Wouldn't it be sad if we said no and that was the end of the episode?
This was such a short episode.
Yeah, it was really short. We're not going to go through and read everything out loud ahead of time. We've both read through this game. So we're cool with it. And you can come along with us for this journey. So, step 1 here. Who is your scion? As a scion of the last stewards, you take on the mantle of care for an aspect of the natural world. All right, so you have 2 stats right now. You have honorable, which it will start as a 3. You roll both of your d6s for honor, to comfort your betrothed, fulfill your duties, and act on behalf of the temple. Later on, as we play, what those rolls are will matter, but we'll get to that, because you can adjust your score based on the results of those rolls. But we start with that honorable at 3.
Yep. And then there's impious, which also does the same thing. It starts at 3. But you roll impious to reject the old gods, lash out emotionally, and betray the land.
So you're at 3 and 3, and I'm at 3 and 3.
Yes.
Now I have to name a scion.
Of course.
You have a birth name, but the moment that you were given to the temple, it was burnt as an offering, and the ashes vanished at dawn. Your temple name is blank.
If you are stuck for ideas, try one of the following as a springboard. Acanthus, Valerian, Madling, Stag, Zillus, Ichor, Other.
Okay, I've been thinking about this. I don't know why, but I really want to be Madrigal.
Madrigal. That's a very good name. I think I will be Spark.
Okay.
Something simple.
Choose an old god. Gods are defined by what they have domain over: the tide, calm air, wildfires, new growth, sunlight, rain. Together, name your god. So we got to pick something together.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on what sort of domain? Is this the god of necromancy?
I mean, I don't know. Madrigal is not particularly necromancy-centric.
It doesn't have to
theme. It's actually a secular vocal music from the Renaissance era, but that's okay. Usually has multiple vocal parts. And spark.
Yes.
Okay. Trying to think what that makes together.
Is it like a like maybe a festival god?
I like new growth. I know it's like one of the suggestions here, but I like new growth.
Okay. And then we got to name our god.
Okay, hear me out.
Yeah.
Genesis.
Genesis. That's a good name.
Okay.
For a new growth god.
Okay. Genesis it is.
Perfect. So the next step.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Choose a temptation. There's something that beckons you away from your fate. What is it? I'm assuming that this is an individual question for each of us, right?
Yeah, I guess. Something that beckons you away from your fate. What is it? So the next question, choose attention. Your family is at odds with the family of your betrothed. Why is there bad blood? And how will your marriage heal it? I'm kind of wondering if we answer that one first, it might give us a little more idea.
Yeah, it could be.
So what's the deal with our families? Why are they not BFFs?
Gosh, this is very Romeo and Juliet, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay. Do we want it to be something petty or something like big?
That's a good question. I mean, I feel like it's probably something big, given the fact that like it's like fate of the world depends on us.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Okay, but like then how will our merging heal that rift between the families?
I think that there's a tension that like we potentially blame each other for this situation being this way at all. That it's like my family is sure your family is the one causing the dying of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And your family is sure that mine is.
Okay.
And like obviously the reality is it's both.
Yes. So both families are killing the earth.
Mm-hmm. Or I guess, I mean, have done something that, because it's not like it's a fantasy thing. So it's not like, you know, just like pollution and over farming or like whatever.
They've done something to add to the beginning of the end.
Like, I mean, I feel like that they've like angered some gods or something like that. That I don't think it's so direct as like my family did this thing and your family did this thing. Like, you know, I feel like it's probably generations and generations and generations ago, and we don't necessarily know the specifics of it. Mm-hmm. I prefer it not to be so like direct, like you killed the earth, like, you know what I mean?
Gotcha. Yeah. That makes sense. Okay, I like that.
I think they blame each other for getting to this point. And then obviously our marriage would heal it by like forcing them into being the same family, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that didn't really help answer our temptation. I was hoping it would give us a little more to go off of, but it was a start. Something that beckons you away from your fate. What is it? I feel like I potentially feel called by another god.
Oh.
That I'm not sure that like our marriage is the only way.
Mm-hmm. This is the tough question.
It is. That's why I skipped to the next one, hoping it would help.
Because it feels like these individuals have been kind of like a part of this temple their entire lives, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it says that we've been brought up in the traditions of the temple and like we consented to this marriage and our duties and all that kind of stuff. So it's not like I don't feel like it was a thing that was like sprung on us the night before, you know. Right. It feels very much like we were brought up to understand this is what was going to happen.
Exactly. So like I'm trying to think like do I have some sort of like lifelong project or something that I want to finish, or is there like, you know, something else that I've always wanted to do and this will prevent me from doing that. I think my character's temptation is they want to be able to see the world for themselves because they've only experienced the world through what they were told.
Okay. But here's the thing. There won't be a world if you do that.
There won't be a right. There won't be a world, and there won't be a world in its current state if we do go through with this. So like what if the world's not as bad off as everybody keeps telling us.
So you think this is some kind of conspiracy?
I don't know about conspiracy per se, but more like, we are doing this because we're told we have to. And like nobody's let us just go gallivanting around the world in order to see how bad things really are across, cultures and stuff.
I suppose. That's fair. You can believe that if you want.
Right. I think it's just something that like picks at Spark's brain.
Gotcha. All right. You wanna roll for some things?
Yeah.
Roll 1d6 for your ritual mantle.
Mm-hmm.
On the night of your wedding, you create a mantle that will become part of your new godhood. When you wear it, you are able to invoke its domain. Each player will roll for their own mantle.
Wonderful.
Should we read them all?
Yeah, let's go ahead. What do we got?
Okay. Well, should we just take turns, read every other?
Yep.
Okay. I will start with the first one. 1. Blood rites. Don the blood of a sacrifice like a shimmering wet robe.
Oh, man. Seize embrace. Flood your bower and with a warm tide glowing with bioluminescence.
Verdant bed. Sow your garden with living, tender, young plants that sprout from your body.
Singing season. Weave together the foxes crying, riotous birdsong, the wolves' keening chorus in an improbable perfect harmony.
Sweet waters. Stand tall under the torrent of summer rain that falls only over the bower, soaking through.
Root crown. Roots erupt from the leaf litter, shining bone white, and wind around you and your betrothed.
Okay, so
these are so evocative.
We each roll for one of these.
Yes.
Okay. All right, here we go. I got Sweet Waters.
Ooh, nice. I got Singing Season.
Okay. They're fine.
Yeah.
Not the ones I wanted, but,
I know. Exactly. It's not too bad.
Do you want to roll again?
Yeah. I think I'm fine. Like this creates a...
Yours definitely feels like it would be good for me, but that's okay.
But maybe that's why I have it.
Yeah.
Right? So that it works well with you so that we are more bonded.
Yeah. Mine just feels like it doesn't go with anything.
I think yours works as well. This torrent of summer rain.
It's just not speaking to... I'm going to roll again. It's just not speaking to me.
Yeah. You know? Enthusiastic goodness.
Oh, but then that leaves me with what you got. Root crown. I will take root crown.
Root crown.
Yeah.
Amazing. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So there are 3 parts to a game. Part 1 is called Alone Together. So your last conversation is humans before your union and transformation. Part 2 of the game is A New God. Your wedding altar is the loom on which you weave together your ritual mantles to create a single, powerful new land god. Part 3 ends the game with The Path Before You, which takes place 100 years from the events of A New God. Did you return to the temple and assume your sworn duties to the land, or did you run?
Ooh.
At the end of each part, you'll both roll 2d6 twice. For the first roll, add the higher result to your honorable stat. For the second roll, add the higher result to your impious stat. So this goes back to, like, back in the beginning, we talked about rolls for those honorable and impious stats. For honorable, if both of your d6s are higher than 3, you write that higher number as your honor stat. So you replace that 3 with whatever that higher number is. If you either of your d6s are 3 or lower, you keep it at 3.
Yes.
Impious is the opposite, basically. If both your d6s are lower than 3, you write the lower number. And if they're higher than 3, you just take 3.
Yeah. And it sounds like as you're going through the scenes, like you could get to a 6, right, for your honorable, and a 1 for your impious, and be happy with those. But then you just do one more thing, and that could easily change your stats because you have to roll above or below, right?
Yeah, because it's like if your score exceeds 8 for honorable, you're granted a boon. If your score exceeds 8 for impious, you have the option to deny your fate.
Yeah.
To do so will free you, and you both will remain human, but your freedom has doomed the land. So, yeah. I mean, as you go through each section, you are you're answering questions about yourself. You act out these conversations between the two of you. So in Alone Together, my family stewards blank. I'm responsible for blank. Twining our 2 domains together will strengthen the land by blank. And then you have to sort of like, there's some options to pick, like what strikes you as beautiful about this other person? What sparks a feeling of tenderness toward them? Yeah, so you're basically like kind of playing out these scenes between you as you lead up to the marriage over the course of these parts. And then when you get to the end of the game, you're trying to decide, like, did you end up returning the land? What happened there? If you didn't, describe the disasters that befell the land in your wake.
Right, exactly. Do we want to at least answer the questions going through here?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we can do Alone Together, maybe.
Yeah.
All right, so for part 1, Alone Together. Answer the following prompts together, out of character, then act out a conversation between the two of you. So we're going to start by answering the questions here. All right. My family stewards blank. I am responsible for blank.
Let's see. It feels like agriculture is big.
Well, it's going to be something about the land or the environment. Yeah. Like, I think, like, my family is in charge of, like, maintaining the balance of things. Of, like, you know, like, making sure that things are pollinated and, like, you know. Yeah, I think their job is like, this ecological balance of things.
Okay. So, like, making sure that the bees are doing their job and that there's not, like, invasive species or stuff like that?
Yeah, and, like, you know how you sort of, you know, like, you rotate crops and, you know, so that you're not, like, completely destroying the soil from, like, one specific nutrient and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds good. I think my family are the stewards of the forests. And I'm like, they're there for, you know, cutting down the lumber that we need, but making sure we don't cut down too much, and replanting and like tending to things and whatnot. Right.
Yeah.
And I am responsible for tending to the saplings back at the temple.
Okay. I would like to specifically be responsible for the bees.
Oh, there you go.
We love bees. We love our pollinators. They're great.
Absolutely.
Twining our 2 domains together will strengthen the land by...
I mean, they kind of go hand in hand, right?
Right. Like, they feel like they already go together. I think that my knowledge of, like, maintaining a balance of things and your knowledge of, like, the full life cycle of a thing would, like, sort of bring everything together to...
Oh, yeah.
You know, to be able to do that, like, across all of the land, you know?
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
I think, like, we'd be able to, like, fully manage the life cycles of everything.
I like that.
The life cycle of life.
This is really interesting, though. Meeting. This is the first time you've laid eyes on your betrothed. So we've just blindly have gone into this and never have met or talked or anything before this point.
Well, I think this is like we're meeting in person for the first time. I would like to think, because like we've gone into this fully consenting and everything. I personally would like to think that like, I don't know, like we've exchanged letters for a long time or something like that. I personally would like to not go into it completely blind.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
You know, that like we have some familiarity with each other, but maybe this is the first time we've actually like met in person.
Okay. I like that.
So what strikes you as beautiful? Choose 1 to 2. Their hands, their bearing, their eyes, their voice. I'm going to say it's your hands. Because they're clearly like, they're hands that you've worked with, you know, and that's like not a thing that I necessarily see a lot. I think, you know, like while we are responsible for that balance, I think a lot of it is more like theoretical kind of work. And I think that strikes me as something that's like you really do care about this, you know?
I'd say their eyes, very observational. I think like it feels like your character would have like a good sense of what's around them at all times, and like taking things in.
Yeah. What sparks a feeling of tenderness toward them? Their hands, their bearing, their eyes, their voice. I'm going to say it's your voice. I think, like, from our exchanging of letters and knowing what you do and then seeing your hands and everything, I think I really expected you to have this, like, very sort of, like, gruff voice. And it's, like, it's just not what I expected.
Right.
You know, I'm not going to say it's, like, super soft or anything. Like, I don't know in my head what it is. But I think it's just, it's not the sort of, like, hardened lumberjack kind of voice that I expected.
That makes sense. I'm going to say their hands.
Okay.
Because I think your hands would have kind of a gentleness to them in how they interact with things, because you have to be so gentle with the bees, right? That translates to you're very gentle, soft-touched sort of thing. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, and then basically what would happen from here is that it says your betrothed is the last person you will ever speak to as a human. Role play the conversation, touching on all the prompts you just answered in family and meeting. So everything that we just kind of came up with, we would talk through with each other. Then you roll your D6s, and what does it look like if you receive either? Play it out.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, I can see this game being like super intimate, right?
Right. Oh, yeah.
I'm already getting kind of like star-crossed vibes on these last couple of questions, right?
You say that about like any micro romance game. You're like, oh, star-crossed vibes because we have to say what we like about each other. Like,
I know, that's fair. I mean,
it feels very different to me, but that's fair.
Yeah, so that's the part one. Part two then goes into, once you get all of that figured out and figure out if you are more honorable or impious, effectively, you make your new god together. Yeah. So your Scions now metamorphose into their new united form as a land god. The ritual has 4 parts named after the seasons. You enter the prompts for each season. So autumn is what parts of your humanity die.
Winter, what parts of your humanity do you carry into your new existence?
Spring, what does your new body look like and what can it do?
Summer, what parts of the land do you reign over and how does it celebrate your rebirth?
Yeah. And then you roll to see if you can get a boon or deny. What does it look like if you receive either, and then play that out.
And then the ending of the game, if you returned to the land as a god, describe the processional that sprang from the land as you returned to the temple. 100 years have passed. You are the last surviving land god. What are your duties? What are your chores? What does it feel like to live as the last of your kind?
Wild.
Do you want to read the other part? If you deny
And if you denied your stewardship, describe the disasters that befell the land in your wake. And
then for part 3, the path before you. 100 years have passed. If you stayed human because you denied your duties after part 1, you've been cursed to live until the land itself dies. If you transformed but ran before returning to the temple, you are a fugitive god. What does your life look like now? Has the land recovered from your absence?
Yeah. So this game feels like it would be really intense.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not necessarily spooky. Again, we kind of said a little bit of that with, I think, Lycantree too. We talked about how some of it is unsettling more than spooky necessarily. But I think the idea of the end of the world resting on your shoulders is a lot. And I think that when you start to talk about what would happen and all of those kinds of things, even what what you are stewards of and things like that, there's a lot of potential to get pretty dark there if you want to.
Exactly. Yeah. It's really, really it's a really poetic game, it feels like, too, right?
Yes.
There's a lot of really cool stuff in here. You've got that mantle that was very evocative. And I can see these scenes being really close and intimate, right?
Yeah.
That first and final conversation as humans.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's so great. It's this is the last time you're going to talk to another person as a human. Also, you just met them. That's why part of me is I hope we exchange letters first, because otherwise,
pen pals our whole lives.
Yeah. Otherwise, that's kind of
wild.
blocked.
Yeah. And that's A Green Hour, The Dying Land.
Oof.
This is a very good game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really, both of these felt kind of journal. I mean, the first one was a journaling game. This one felt like a journaling.
Yeah, they're much more storytelling than mechanics based, for sure.
Exactly. I would be very interested to play out this game and kind of see how the mechanics actually work and whatnot. And how that kind of steers the story, right?
Yeah.
Because right now it feels like there's no easy way to say how this could go.
No, it's, we couldn't do a fanfic with this one, I don't think, because we would need to know a lot more about ourselves.
We could suppose a whole bunch, but yeah.
No, I don't think that would work.
Yeah. So yeah, that was Lycantree and A Green Hour, The Dying Land. And both of these can be found in the Ultimate Micro RPG book by edited by James D'Amato. And there is a lot of other amazing spooky games out there. A lot of another amazing spooky micro RPGs we had to pass up. So definitely keep your eyes open for them this month. I'm glad we were able to make this work.
Yes.
Hopefully you all enjoyed the series.
I hope we've helped you find some inspiration. I would really love to hear if anybody plays some of these games with their groups. Obviously not really the ones this week, probably. But I like how we were we'll get progressively spookier, but then we'll also get progressively less playable with your full group. Oops. Okay, didn't maybe plan that one.
It's fine.
I don't know that we got progressively spookier so much as progressively more serious. Best laid plans.
If it's this late in the season already, it might be hard to pull together a full group. So therefore, you're welcome.
Here you go. Yeah. I really would love to hear if people play any of these games and how it went and what you came up with.
Absolutely.
Does Rick Astley,
right?
Is he prominently placed in your story?
Yep. We sure hope
cultists.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us.
Yep. We'll see you next time.
Call to action.
Yeah, like that. In our efforts to get progressively spookier over the course of the month, I'm not sure we pulled it off.
No.
We did get more serious.
Serious.
Things that have potential kind of dark undertones. You know, I feel like Lycantree has the potential to be kind of spooky.
Oh, yeah.
When you start like really getting into things and talking about how everything works, and like there's a lot of potential there for things to be more traditionally Halloween-ish, let's say.
Yeah.
I don't think a green hour necessarily is that way. I think again, you could, depending on, you know, what you pick as your stewards, like to be stewards of and all of that kind of stuff. Probably in the course of some of those conversations that we didn't play out, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah. They were darker and heavier.
Exactly.
For sure.
Because like you can choose in a green hour to forego your duty, right?
That's
and
true. The end of the world can happen.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And it can be 100% your fault.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So
yeah. I mean, it really depends on like, what is your definition of spooky? Is it kind of like creepy? Are you looking for horror? Are you looking for like, you know, vampires and werewolves and that kind of stuff? You know, so it depends on what you're looking for. All of the games definitely had dark tones to them.
Exactly. So. It felt like these two games had a lot more introspection than the other games, right?
For sure. For sure. I mean, one was a solo journaling game, so it's all introspection.
Right. So, and I mean, looking at ourselves.
Yes.
Can be spooky.
It can be. It can be.
It certainly
can be. The scariest monster is you. Oh, no. Oh, no.
We got there.
We got there,
folks.
We did it. Before we let you go for the day, though, here are our calls to action.
Just a reminder that our new friend Trisha from our amazing Die RPG game last month is one of the people behind Roarcat Reads, which runs events, makes content, and hosts a community that is by and for LGBTQIA2S+ people. Their charity event is going live soon, and there is already a silent auction that had started ahead of the event's start time. So you can get in on that. We'll have links in the show notes. We do have the little blurb that Trisha had sent us. So I'll read that now. Roarcat Reads is back with their 5th online TTRPG Streamathon and silent auction on Saturday, October 21st to raise $1,000 for Rainbow Refugees Prism Collective to help an LGBTQ refugee to move to Vancouver. Follow Roarcat Reads on Instagram to stay up to date on all things queer and nerdy.
Unfortunately, my health is not going to allow me to attend AcadeCon this year. I know I've kept saying, like, I'm going to try and figure it out. We're going to do it. It's going to be great. But no. I really hoped to make everything work, but after talking it over with my care team, we decided that not attending is probably in my best long-term interest.
Yes.
I'm disappointed. It sucks. But that's how chronic health issues be sometimes. And ultimately, I've got to do what's good long term. So,
yes.
But also, okay.
Yeah.
That said, Ryan will still be there.
I will still be there. Yep. So I'll be taking up the C3 mantle and
all by yourself. Ryan represents all interests of Character Creation Cast.
Yes. So you can come to me with all your C3 needs. I will be there. I may have stickers. So we'll see. I'm going to be swinging by Amelia's place to pick up some things that I need for the panel that I will still be running. And maybe I'll grab a little extra goodies to kind of hand out at the con. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
So we'll see how all of that goes. But I will be there, general admission, for all of the events that I have out there. Went into effect a couple Saturdays ago, and events are starting to fill up. So one of my games is already full. Another is nearly full. You're going to want to check those out. I've got 3 games that I'm running officially. 2 of them are It's a Magical Beach episode, and one of them is Our Final Gathering. And then there is the C3 panel on Friday evening, where I'm going to be walking folks through creating groups of random characters together with the audience. There's going to be a lot of audience participation. We're going to be using the random character tables that we did in a previous series. I think it'll be a lot of fun if we can get the technology to work, and if Amelia is coherent. We'll
what
see
a
if
caveat! What a great caveat!
We'll see if Amelia can join us via Zoom during the panel. It would be a lot of fun to have her virtually there. So we'll see if we can get all of that lined up. If not, it'll still be a great time. So definitely consider joining us if you're going to be at AcadeCon that weekend.
If you enjoy what we're doing on our show, you can directly support us by checking out our Patreon. We have multiple tiers, and all of them are amazing. Everyone gets access to our chit-chat episodes and bonus outtakes. There were a lot from this series, I think. Mm-hmm. I feel like I generated a fair number of them.
Uh-huh.
The $5 tier gets access to bonus episodes and early release episodes. The $10 tier includes video chats with us and other patrons, and exclusive stickers every month, which they've been pretty fun so far. And I'm looking forward to the next few months of making them. Mm-hmm. In addition to that, we will thank you personally on every single episode because you're amazing. And honestly, we really enjoy reading these. So we're going to do that right now. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We're going to start with thank you to Lieutenant and DJG, a.k.a. Tyrannosaurus. We are so glad to have you backing us from the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Eric Bonts and Daryl Holiday II. Your support brings us so much joy.
Shadim Cabal and the Shyest Barbarian, thank you so much.
Thanks to Benjamin Sweeney and Lorcan McInnes. So glad to have you backing us.
We appreciate your support, Rob Fletcher and Kevin Brown. Thank you.
Thank you to Tentacle Duck and Cole McCallum. Your support brings us a lot of joy.
John Adamus and the killer kleptomaniac Koala Kids aiming to steal the show with Carrie Kangaroos kicking kazoo. Our deepest thanks.
Carlos Salazar.
I got it in one.
You did. Good job.
Got it in one.
Carlos Salazar and Eric S., you're the best. Thank you.
Ross Kingston and Ian Popmeyer, many thanks to you.
Sorry Goth and Liam G., you rock. Thank you.
Brian Colm and the Garden GM, thanks.
Dark Mirror and Tom, many thanks to you.
Blue Kryptonite and Danny, thank you both so much.
Thank you, Nicole Trainer and Liam Murray. Your support brings us a lot of joy as well.
Satwan Kungura and Kenning, thank you for making all of this possible.
And thank you to Brian Kurtz. We are glad to have you here with us.
And thank you to all of our future supporters as well. Your assistance helps pay for the production of this show, things like Ryan's fancy recording software, our Zoom account, what else? We got like our Dropbox account, website upkeep, and all of that kind of stuff. I always feel like we say, like it helps pay for this. And it's like, well, how much does it cost to talk into a microphone? It turns out actually a lot. So thank you so much for helping out with all of that. You can join us on our Patreon. You'll be joining an incredible community on Discord at discord.charactercreationcast.com, which you can get access to even if you aren't a patron, but patrons get special patron-only channels too.
Absolutely. Another way to really help us out is by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, Podcast Addict, and Facebook. We'll read any new 5-star reviews right here in our calls to action, and thank you personally. As of right now, we are still out of reviews again. Every review does help us out and helps others find the show and really makes us nice, warm, and fuzzy inside. So if you want to provide that for us.
Just to let everybody know, my birthday is coming up in like a month. So if you're thinking about like, what can I get Amelia for her birthday? Coming up pretty soon. Birthday reviews.
It's always a hit.
Yes.
So any help you can provide here will be very much appreciated.
That is it for our Spooky Month series. We're really glad you could join us, and we hope you got some ideas to take back to your own groups. We hope to be back with one more episode this month. There are 5 Mondays, but we are 2 people. So hopefully one more episode at least.
Been a lot of sickness this month. So.
Yeah, if either of us can manage to not get sick again, which so far this month we've not had good luck with.
No.
But fingers crossed, everybody. Until then, take care, everyone. Stay safe out there. Drink some water. Spread some spooky joy. And keep making those amazing people. We'll see you next time.
Character Creation Cast is a production of the One Shot Podcast Network and can be found online at www.charactercreationcast.com. Head to the website to get more information on our hosts, this show, and even our press kit. Character Creation Cast can also be found on Twitter and Blue Sky at CreationCast, or on our Discord server at discord.charactercreationcast.com. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Bolter, and I can be found on Twitter and Blue Sky at Lord Neptune or online at lordneptune.com. Our other host, Amelia Antrim, can be found on Twitter and Blue Sky at Ginger Reckoning. Music for this episode is used with a Creative Commons license or with permission from the podcast they originated from. Further information can be found within the show notes. Our main theme music is Hero Remix by Steve Combs and is used with a Creative Commons license. This podcast is owned by us under Creative Commons. This episode was edited by Ryan Bolter. Further information for the game systems used and today's guests can also be found in the show notes. If you'd like to support our show, find us on Patreon. Get access to bonus episodes, exclusive merch, and much more at patreon.com/charactercreationcast. Thanks for joining us. And remember, we find that the best part of any role-playing game is character creation. So go out there and create some amazing people. We'll see you next time.